Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me here today and hope you are all good and well. I'd like to begin with a saying. Remember, the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. So what is this telling us? It's telling us that things take time to benefit from the goodness of it. So today, what we will be looking around is, what is a marital union? Are the bride and groom being primarily selected by individuals other than the couple themselves, particularly by family members such as the parents? Also, we will find out how in some cultures and professional matchmakers may be used to find a spouse for a young person. We will get an insight into arranged marriages and concepts, marital adjustments, compatibility, success, role of parents and individuals, and the internal and external avenues. So without much ado, let's talk about it with SABIA KHATUN here about the vows and union in marriages. I'd like to take you over to our guests who have joined not only from the UK, but also from across the globe. I would like to start with Tooba Zafar Sial, who's a clinical psychologist, and she's joined us from Pakistan. So welcome, Tooba. Welcome to my show.
Hi, thank you for inviting. Thank you so much. So starting with my bit of the intro, my name is Tooba Zafar Sial, and by profession, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I have been a peer counselor for different universities in Pakistan and specifically in Karachi. Right now, I'm serving in a non-profit organization as a coordinator. Yeah.
Thank you, Tooba. We will go into detail. We'll just do a quick brief introductions first, because I know you've got a lot of valuable things you can mention to our viewers here today. If I can take you all over to Dilowar Khan, who is a director for East London Mosque and the London Muslim Centre here in the UK. We are very privileged to be joined by Dilowar Khan. Welcome to my show, and I'm so glad that you could join us.
It's my pleasure. Assalamu alaikum to all the viewers. Inshallah, I hope to learn something as well from this show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I also have someone else from nearby the LMC Centre here. Her name is Sufia Alam, and she is a manager managing the Maryam Centre. Some of you may be familiar with who are in the UK. So welcome, Sufia Alam.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Nice to be invited, Sabia, to your show. Yes, I manage the Maryam Centre, which is part of the East London Mosque and the London Muslim Centre, and various projects within the women's wing there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, we will find out a lot more about that. And last but not least, our beautiful guest from Pakistan. She's a team lead psychologist, and her name is Fizza Arshed. Welcome, Fizza.
Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Thank you, Sabia, for having me on the show. I am clinical psychologist working in Pakistan right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Right, now, we may start with trying to find out and get an insight into what arranged marriages are. Are they still being practiced in the West? And what we have found out is that amongst the South Asian diaspora, which are evolving towards love marriages gradually, individuals are finding their own partners. Now, are arranged marriages still a valuable privilege that parents hold for their sons and daughters? I'd like to probably start with Tooba here, where if she can give us an insight into understanding the concept of the marriage, and if she can just elaborate a little bit about that for the benefit of our viewers, that would be great. So Tooba, if you can just give us an insight into how we can understand the concept of the marriage, and maybe dividing it into you know, any avenues that it actually can go into.
Sure. So yeah, it's very important to understand at this point in time, starting with, what is the concept of marriage? So, generally marriage is, legally and socially sanctioned union around, usually between a man and a woman. And that is generally regulated by laws, rules, customs, beliefs, attitudes, that differ from society to society, that actually prescribe the rights and duties of the partner, and, accord status to their offspring. So the concept of a general marriage, we can see, in different societies in different forms. Then we come across the two categories which are generally seen across the world, that is arranged marriage, and the second one is the love marriage. So generally, when we talk about arrange and the love one, so I would say the arranged marriage is one of the, the oldest way of, when we talk about marriage and stuff. So arranged marriage is one of the oldest ways that have been practiced in society, especially when we talk about the South Asian societies and cultures. And love marriage is definitely where, the affectionate factor, the emotions are regulated in a more privileged way, and, people get involved by initiating their emotions based on love and affection. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'd like to actually point towards Dilowar Khan's direction on this now. If you can tell us what maybe another viewpoint is about marriage and different aspects of it, whether it's culturally or religiously. So if we can get an insight from yourself on that, Dilowar Khan, that would be good.
As Mr. Tooba said, marriage is a social legal contract. But from religious point of view, in Islam, a marriage is a very strong sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he recommended marriage. Marriage is not it's not compulsory, but it becomes compulsory for people, for men and women, if they feel that they they might commit a sin, or they feel the urge to commit a sin. In that situation, it becomes compulsory, because in Islam, any relationship between man and woman, it has to be within a marriage, cannot be outside of marriage. So there is a religious dimension to it, and marriage in Islam is considered fulfilling half of your faith as well. Rasulullah said marriage is half of faith, so be careful about the other half. So it's a religious duty, and when people get married, they actually are performing a religious duty as well, and they're and they will get rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for taking on the responsibility and living together, and bringing up the new generation. So this is the religious dimension to marriage as well. But Islam recognizes actually marriages, as Tooba said, it's the oldest institution. It's in every society, marriage, the concept of marriage is there. And she also touched on the arranged marriage and love marriage, and she's right to say that in almost all societies, until recently, I would say, that all of the marriages were arranged.
Yeah. So if I can go over to Fizza, about where does trust, love, any adjustment fit in to any of this, what we have heard so far? Are we what kind of marital adjustments are we talking about here?
Okay, marital adjustment is a concept which is interchangeably used with the word of marital satisfaction. Marital adjustment is a phase that every couple goes through when they're accommodating with the new roles of a husband and a wife, when they try to adapt to the new environment, when they try to accommodate with the new responsibilities coming in their marital relationships. So, marital adjustments, I would like to present a comparison here. Studies have indicated that the score of marital adjustment taken from the data taken from people who are into love marriages and who are into arranged marriages, there is no significant difference that we can make between the marital adjustment of people with love marriages and people with arranged marriages. So marital adjustment basically has more to do with compatibility um, and basically there are three different dimensions of marital adjustment that are there, namely in-laws adjustment and work roles adjustment and intimacy adjustment. So whether it's a love marriage or an arranged marriage, adjusting with the in-laws is a dimension which is new to both a couple who has been into love marriage recently or into arranged marriage. So no way it can be determined that the couples who have opted for love marriage have better marital adjustment than people with arranged marriages. Right. So marital adjustment, yes, has nothing to do with love marriages and arranged marriages.
Right. Yeah. I have an interesting one for Sufia, actually. I don't know if anyone here in the UK, maybe. I mean, it's before we go into a little bit more, I mean, it's a very deep, subject. But I came across a TV program not long ago as I'm flicking through the channels, and I see a program that says Married at First Sight. Now, what that is, I read a little bit, and it said it's professional matchmakers are matching couples together. And these are not our usual traditional cultural background individuals. These are, from our Western, country that we are living in. And they are matching them through their CVs, where it's, stating where they match their similarities, their interests and hobbies, matching their pictures. Even the parents don't have a say in it. And I found it quite interesting and like, really, the fact that the couples meet each other on the day of the marriage, going through the church ceremony, dressed in the white dress, and the groom dressed in his suit. They meet for the first time. They're actually taking their vows to be married. Now, it can't get as more traditional than that, can it? So I would like to pick your thoughts on that, Sufia. Even if you haven't seen that on the TV, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, what's going on?
Well, I guess it's a form of arranged marriage, isn't it? In terms of if somebody's looking at the variables and the compatibility, and the couple are relying upon the matchmakers there to match them up, and they've got that sincere belief in that. But it's almost shocking for the Western communities to accept that, whereas within arranged marriages it's almost very similar. But in fact, with arranged marriages, you've got the safety net of families coming together, families knowing what their children like, they dislike, and working within those two relationships. So this is a bit it's shocking if even parents don't have a say. But maybe this is the new way. People are too busy to even look into it. Maybe compatibility is determined by people's CV, which we're often seeing.
I'm finding it quite crazy. I mean, I'm not so sure whether they were only for mature people. Again, I mean, if we look at things culturally, if I can go back to Dilowar, I mean, what is the understanding of some people, you know, who are thinking arranged marriage is actually forced marriage? I mean, what can we say about that? If I can ask that to Dilowar.
Yeah, there may be a perception, especially from the West, that arranged marriages are forced marriages. But this is not the case. It's a complete. There's a difference between forced marriage and arranged marriage. Arranged marriage is where, you know, your parents or somebody will bring you try to look for someone, a partner for your life, and you ask around and you find, you know, get recommendations, and then you, if you think this family and the person you're compatible with, you go through the process of, you know, through your family, and you know, and you get married. But the forced marriage is where you know, people are forced into marriage by their parents, or maybe the tribe or whatever, you know, because of some other motives, not necessarily that, you know, marriage, but you know, sometimes there could be economic reasons, maybe because of family ties they want to strengthen. So people are usually, you know, they are forced into marriage, and in Islam, forced marriage is haram, is not allowed in Islam. But people, I think it's more of a cultural practice, and we know for sure that some of our people have practiced it, probably still practicing it, and they put, especially our sisters, the women, they actually, I think they suffer most in this situation. They are pressurized into marriage for the honor of the family or something like that. And so they want, sometimes it could be like the family want to be close to another family, and so they think it's very important we have to get into a marriage, you know, in this situation. So it is happening. All of us, we know, but I think it's reducing. Alhamdulillah, I think it is reducing. It was there, I think, quite a lot when I was growing up, and especially a lot of our sisters, and even our, if you go back to our mother's generation, I don't think many of them had a proper say in, you know, who they wanted to marry.
Could I get the understanding of this forced marriage? Could it be that when someone is faced with physical pressure, maybe threats, physical violence, you know, even emotional and psychologically being pressured, could that play a part where, as you mentioned, it's like, for example, feeling the need to bring, you know, family over from wherever you are, as in culturally. Could all of those things, you know, be part of this forced marriage?
Yes, I mean, one of the motivations, especially in UK, we've seen in the 1990s, and you know that many of our women, that they went back to, you know, Bangladesh or Pakistan, and they got married to their relatives, and sometimes, as you said, there was some emotional blackmailing there and pressure and all these things. So it does happen. As I said, there's an economic factor there as well. People wanted to come over to the to UK or to USA in the Western countries and settle here. So that motivation is there. Okay, I think it's not like, as long as, look, you can have these additional benefits as long as there is proper consent. Okay, you can have some additional benefits if there's economic benefit, if there is, in terms of, you know, if you marry into a family and, you know, you think that your social status will be better. Yeah. So these kind of things can, but that shouldn't be the main motivation. The main motivation is the compatibility of the two potential, the husband and wife.
Which takes me to try and find out, if I can ask Tooba this actually, the roles of parents and the individuals involved in a process of a marriage. Can you give us an insight in that?
Yeah, so generally role of parents when we talk about an Eastern society, when we talk about South Asian countries maybe, where, arranged marriages are preferred at any level. So generally when we want to indicate the role of the parents, so it's very important that, most of the parents, there are few parents who generally think that, their daughter or son should go through the process of arranged marriage, so it becomes very easy, because arranged marriage generally involves the analysis, I would say, the analysis of the the partner family generally. But when it comes to the love marriage, so there's some other side of story which which is executed in general. That parents, at few times they are concerned about the child, I mean the daughter or the son, that whether it's going to be a love marriage, so how they're going to cater all of these things in general. But there are some parents who are happy, that their son or daughter, they have chosen their partners themselves, and it's going to be easy for them in general. So it involves a lot of new avenues when we talk about the role of the parents. Then we come across, as one of the speaker mentioned, that we do come across some of the issues like physical abuse, like emotional abuse. So this is the another role of the parent, where it becomes a very confusion making state, where parents are not able to identify whether the decision that was based on the love marriage, that was all based on the arranged marriage, has been a good decision or not. So you do it anyway. It's confusing somehow in general, when it becomes the role of the parents. But generally we have seen that parents do vote for arranged marriages. Yes, in our society they are more than happy to arrange their weddings and the general setups and meetings with the other family. But nowadays I would say, time is changing, people are changing, people are preferring love marriages. So the role of parents in general have changed a lot. So it's very, I would say, a two-sided story in general.
I'm a parent myself, so I mean, if my daughter is coming of a time where I say to her, look, if there is anyone, please do introduce us to this person, and we just want to make sure they're not serial killers or something, go along those routes.
That's very difficult to be in a parent role generally when we are talking about arranged and love marriage, so I mean, it's really difficult. Truly.
What we mean by that is, naturally as parents, we feel, we want to make sure that they will be with someone who can look after them, take care of them, protect them, all those kinds of things. Hence, our parents' generation and previous generations, they had their ways, but they went about it, in a different angle. What I wanted to ask Fizza about is premarital and marital counselling. What kind of things do you come across on a normal day, in regards to all of that?
Premarital counseling is basically a form of psychotherapy in which the potential couple, they are invited over for sessions where they discuss about how will their communication be, and how will they manage their finances, or regarding their opinions about resolving the issues, or the ideas about getting children or not, about having children or not, about shifting to other places, about their careers, about their jobs, everything that both people have planned in their lives as two separate entities, because when they are getting into this marital relationship, they will not be two separate entities. They will have to work as a team. So premarital counseling is all about resolving the issues, about communicating, and even speaking from a religious point of view, the premarital counseling is required to tell the Islamic concepts, the Islamic ideas of how an ideal marriage should be, what things should be avoided in order to protect their marriages. A very important thing. According to Islam as well as according to psychology, which must be practiced in order to avoid divorces. And it has found that the divorce ratio has significantly reduced for those couples who have gone through the process of premarital counseling.
Right. Yeah. Which brings me to mention, if I can direct to Dilowar on this, how successful or unsuccessful do we see, whether it's a love marriage or an arranged marriage, in the surroundings that you're at, which you can mention, and if you know anywhere else around the globe that you could share with us on that.
Yes. As I said, that I work in the East London Mosque and London Muslim Center, and our imams are very busy actually with this kind of issues, the divorce issues and family conflicts, and many young people come to them before marriage, after marriage. What I see is that the divorce rate is, I think, probably equally, it's equal in both arranged marriages and love marriages. People are separating, families are breaking up, regardless of how they were married. Whether it was arranged.
Is this now that it is? How about maybe 10, 20 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, before, so my generation, I got married 32 years ago.
Wow.
I hardly heard any of my relatives or my friend circle actually, they're divorcing. But now it's quite common. One day when I go to a marriage, and then a couple of months later I hear they're getting divorced. So this is very common now, unfortunately. And there are many reasons for that. I think that's something we can go into if you want to discuss this.
If you can suggest maybe one or two things that are playing a part in for something not like this not working out.
I think as Sister Fizza said, I think one of the main reasons, I think, the people who are getting into marriage, they don't know their Islamic obligations, what marriage is and what Islam says about their responsibilities. And I think they have very high expectations of one another, and even before marriage, they probably have some sort of a vision of how their partner should be, and I think those expectations are not met. And then the other dimension of this cultural gap that we have, especially in the West, with the children and the parents, and there's a serious cultural gap between the especially the daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law. And in our cases, in UK, most of the mother-in-laws were brought up in back home in Bangladesh or Pakistan in a very different environment, and the way they were treated by their in-laws, they sort of try and replicate that here as well. Right. It doesn't work because the children brought up in a very different environment, and they don't want to be controlled by somebody or told by somebody what to do, and so this cultural gap is a big factor in divorce. It's playing a big role in the divorce rate, and the separation.
Yes. So that takes us to the thinking of that. It's not necessarily, individuals finding each other to be, united in a marriage that it necessarily becomes successful. You know, it looks like, you know, there's that compatibility, there's an element of trust and love and sacrifice, you know, all of that sort of like comes into it. What about when in this Western country, you know, where people are naturally and normally are cohabiting with each other, and they feel that, yes, you know, I've known this person 5-6 years, you know, no problem, you know, if it's lasted this long, you know, we will last forever. Does it necessarily mean that that marriage will last longer, be successful? You know, if you can give your thoughts on that, maybe.
Yes, from what I know, and actually the divorce rate is increasing in the Western society, and people are breaking up regardless of, you know, how many years they cohabited and how many years they've known one another. So this is something surprising for us people who actually we've been through arranged marriages and still believe in arranged marriages. You know, why is it that people who know, I mean, one of the criticisms of arranged marriage, how can you marry somebody you don't know? Okay, so or somebody you haven't actually found out about their character and their, you know, their traits and all these things. But why is it that, you know, that people who are in who actually you know, go through the process of love marriage, and not only that, I mean, people are actually the relationship is, you know, is changing. Before, probably people didn't, they fancied one another, they fell in love and they got married. Now people are living together, like husband and wife, even having children, and then getting married. You see, and then after a few years they get a divorce. So
where does where does the vows come into this? If I could go to Sufia on this one, actually. Sufia, with the vows, okay, now what I want to get from you is, we're in this pandemic now, okay, and are you aware of, you know, any marriages that may have taken place? For example, we know at the LMC Centre, a lot of marriages have taken place, you know, before the pandemic and all this COVID situation came on board. Whether, you know, the partners are integrated or not, can you tell us what's going on? You know, what sort of vows are we looking at, you know, for this union that we would like to see happening in a marriage? You know, can you tell us of any that may have taken place, a wedding reception or a marriage?
I think one of the things that has been granted by the government, if you like, even under small groups, has been the marriage ceremony, albeit without a big family gathering. So we have the nikah services still running. Some of them have been on Zoom. And, you know, the vows are quite universal vows in Islam. You know, it's about two people coming together and taking the vow on being faithful. And a lot of the times when we see the breakdown of marriages, it's about unfaithfulness. It's about breaking the contracts of the fiqh within the marriage. So, you know, also, you know, one of the things that Brother Dilowar was talking about, that, you know, we didn't see in our times, women didn't know about their rights as much as they know about their rights now. And it's really important that before, I think Sister Fizza was talking about, it's important to know your rights as a woman, as well as your rights as a man. And it's when you know your rights and you're working within those jurisdictions and you remain faithful within that, those instances, the conflict is going to be reduced. So some of the things we've seen, and one of the things that we deal with, unfortunately, within the Maryam Centre is domestic violence, and we have a counselling service, and people come for all sorts of issues. Especially women, they find it's a private space to kind of Sometimes it's a release, you know, the sanctity of the mosque, just to come in and pray. But other times, just to have that access to counseling, to speak to somebody, to, you know, they don't necessarily want to come out of their marriage, but they want to kind of console themselves. And we hear all sorts of things. You know, I work very closely with the social services, and it's quite daunting to hear that people have taken the Islamic vows, yet they've broken that covenant through haram acts and acts that are really, really difficult for women to go to imams with. So, for example, pornography is a big issue in our community. It's not talked about, but I think, you know,
well, I would say, if I can
time,
interrupt you there, sorry. Sufia, I would say it's not that what you just mentioned about how a breakdown can happen. It's not just the cultural or religious individuals who follow that, but even in this Western society, you know, for a breakdown to happen, you know, all sorts of things are happening. You know, the vows that are taken, which are basic vows that most religious, you know, beliefs carry, which is, you know, love, trust, loyalty, faithfulness, you know, and, you know, to see each other in sickness and in health. They're all, I believe, teachings of every good faith, you know, for a marriage. And those vows, you know, as what I'm hearing from you all, you know, it seems like, you know, in one way or another, there's a breakdown happening, whether it's, you know, women or men. If I can just highlight on, you know, and then I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, which if you can elaborate, you know, so, you know, the man or the woman is taken back to Bangladesh or India or Pakistan, married off, they come back, they've got family pressures, and, you know, they just want to please the community and the family, and they stay in that family, you know, they have children. What's going on when, you know, there's this extramarital affairs are happening? You know, how is that right? You know, how is that right for the wife or the husband that's come from the other country, to how is it right to the person the other person's having the extramarital affair with, and, you know, does this just carry on? So if you can share your thoughts on that, Sufia, you know, how that happens.
Yeah, so some of the things that we're seeing is that, you know, so in terms of domestic abuse, if you like, or coercion, if you like, in many respects, it is because the power of the visa, if you like, you know, and you know that laws have been changed in Britain so that it allows women to have that escape if they're in a marriage that is compromising their status. And in most cases, we found that because they've come on a spousal visa, and I'm talking about women, but majority of the time, but it also happens for men. Men are also in a abusive situation where they feel because they're, you know, their wives have brought them over here, you know, they have to, they're at their beck and call, which is, you know, often out of the realm of Islam as well. So this kind of power dynamic is quite ugly, and it is one of the contributing factors of a divorce or the kind of mental health we're seeing within the community. And it's really,
if I can come back to you on that, Sufia, because it's going on to the mental health side of it, which I'd like to carry on with you in a while. I understand Dilowar will have to leave us shortly, so if I may just ask your last thoughts on what I have mentioned about, which is very, very important, this breakdown of you know, the marital union that's happening. You know, the thing is, the breakdown isn't happening because through the pressure of the families and for whatever reason, you know, of the community, that they want to show that they're living in a good family unity, but really, you know, they have these other extramarital affairs. If you can just share briefly your thoughts on that, and then just last few words before you leave us, that would be really good.
Yes. I think in Islam, extramarital affairs are not allowed. It's completely haram. I think many people probably, I don't know whether they know, but I think most people, they know it. But I think if Islam also allows divorce, although it is taboo and people don't want to talk about it, but it's in Islam says that if you are not compatible, you can get a divorce. I know it's not although it's not something that Islam encourages, but it is allowed. It's not unlike other religions. There are some religions where divorce is not allowed from religious point of view. So you shouldn't be forcing yourself into a relationship where you are suffering and all these things. So why commit the haram? If it's not compatible, get a divorce, and then if you think through counseling and trying it's not working out, get a divorce and find somebody else that is compatible for you. So, but Islam doesn't allow you to have extramarital relationships, so that's very important. I think my last word is that marriage is a very, very important institution for the humanity, not only for Muslims. I think we have to preserve, we have to cherish it, we have to value it, and we have to look after it. And we need to train our young people the importance of marriage, and before they get married and after marriage, we have to, as Sister Fizza said, this premarital and postmarital counseling is very, very important. I think it is not there that much in our Muslim community. So I can say it to you now. I think that's something we need to establish, and we need to promote, inshallah, and hopefully the divorce rate will come down, inshallah.
Yes. Thank you so much for that, and thank you very much for your valuable contributions. And I really do hope our viewers take some of the things on board. And again, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if I can join back with my other guests here. We can look at lots of different avenues. As I was mentioning to Sufia, and Sufia, you touched upon some of the, how mentally and emotionally that some people could be suffering or experiencing. What kind of things are we talking about, and what sort of support and help is out there?
Well, in terms of there's various and sometimes very daunting issues that, even though the extended family is there to support, it's not enough. You need to go and speak to a counsellor, or need to speak to somebody to get your head around the decisions or the issues. Like I said, I kind of went into the deep end of something that really even shocks me to hear, in terms of unfaithfulness, and when we look at the stats, it is quite daunting. So people are looking for good character and in a person, practicing somebody with good manners, but when it gets to that deep end, what do a woman, what does she do? And it's not something that she could go around the houses talking about. It's quite intimate, it's quite personal, it affects family. So having a safe space like the Maryam Centre, counselling, if you like, having peers.
Just for the benefit of our viewers, the Maryam Centre.
Yeah, so the Maryam Centre is the women's services of the East London Mosque. So if people feel uncomfortable talking to an imam, they can come to speak to some of our staff who are trained to deal with all sorts of issues, from domestic violence to general advice and guidance. And that's really important, to know that there's somebody there you could go and speak to. No matter what. And it's not always that it leads to divorce. It leads to,
and this is for everyone. Anyone can go in.
We're open, even though it's inside a mosque. If a woman comes into the mosque and they want support and advice, we will not turn them away. We will support them.
For men as well, I'm assuming.
Yes, so we do, through the counselling services, the reception, we do often get calls where men ring us and they find it comfortable to talk about issues because they feel shy to go to an imam. So it's about then signposting them to appropriate services, so they can have that safe platform to talk
What
through
about,
issues.
yeah, thank you. What about in the areas you ladies live in, Tooba and Fizza? Can you, can both of you tell us something about how things are approached and what avenues it can lead to, what support is out there, yeah. Tooba, Fizza,
So basically, we belong to a collectivistic culture. The family support is definitely there for both the males and the females for any sort of issue that they might go through or experience in their marriages. But as I have previously mentioned, that the new generation is a quick fix generation. They want quick solutions for every problem that they might be facing. So that it's inevitable that two people who are living together will not have any argument ever. That's not possible. So there are arguments, there are disagreements among the spouse, and the couple has to sort that out, but that they need to slow down for that. And the families needs to sometime, not always, they need to intervene, and if not, they should seek psychological help from the counselors to get the matter sorted before they take any impulsive decision, which is leading to increased divorce rate, poor mental well-being of this young generation.
Thank you. Tooba, if you can tell us a bit, and then we are coming slowly to the end of our show as well, so then we'll just hear last few words from everyone. Okay.
Sure. I would just like to add one point in here that keeping in our society, an Eastern society in general. So when we talk about the arranged marriage, this is a fact that, parents are very okay to involved in any of the post consequences of arranged marriage, as Fizza has mentioned. But generally, when it comes to the love marriage, so it becomes a bit choosy scenario where parents, they actually face the situation that because both of the individuals took this decision to spend their life ahead. So generally parents, end up making that a situation where you make sure that the individual or your child experiences that, okay, this was their decision and they have to deal with this thing individually. So this is the, I would say, vote on situation where a sort of a discrimination and a marginalization line is established between arranged marriage and a love marriage. But yes, as Fizza mentioned, that being a collectivist society, we tend to solve these issues irrespective of being arranged marriage or love marriage. We tend to solve these with the family's help or general, with the help of friends or the people around you who can help you out. And yes, and marital therapy is one of the common things around different societies, and likewise we also do practice this marital therapy where you help the couples to sort out irrespective of the range or the love marriage, because it's in the end it's the spouse who are there, and they have to live their life happily ever after.
Yes. I'm actually just thinking, we think of arranged marriage when it comes to young people. What about the mature people who don't have the parents or anyone, so they're just free to go and find whoever they want, presumably, right? But again, taking on board, that doesn't go to say that, as you mentioned, there are premarital centers where you can go to talk about, to get advice and how to go about it. Whether you practice a faith of one kind or another, how do we move forward? So if I can just get last few words from everyone. I'll start with Sufia, and then maybe Fizza and Tooba, and then if we can start wrapping up. Yeah, so Sufia.
Okay, so we're seeing some solutions at the moment. So I certainly have dealt with couples who have come, and they've had, they've met each other and they've fallen in love, but they also want to get their families involved, and it's a compromise between what they want and what their families want, and ultimately, it is about parents understanding that if they really want the happiness, it's that give and take. Obviously, parents will worry no matter what, and they have over the generations. But it's really important for people to stick to their vows, understand that a marriage isn't a bed of roses. There's going to be thorny paths all the way, and to recognize what they are and to work together to build those solutions. I think we're living in a society that social media has made our lives so fast, and this concept of idealism is something, is just a delusion in many ways, and people live through that, and it's only when the balloon pops, it's like, this isn't marriage. So we need to be realistic. We need to ensure that our children are well informed, and that starts from parenting. That starts from a very young age, from birth, if you like, to when they're ready for marriage. If we don't nurture our children where we're having that dialogue, no matter what the generation gap is, you can, we're all using the internet, Zoom, the older generation, the new generation, obviously, apt to it, but we can learn. And if we bring those gaps together, we understand what our children want, what are their desires, what are their ambitions and goals, then this compromise will contribute to a peaceful marriage. And if women know their rights as well as men, if they know their rights and they work within those rights, within the realm of religion, or within whatever religion or whatever cultural normalities, if you like, they can give and take and compromise, then we have a peaceful society.
Sure.
For me, it really saddens me that people spend so much money at weddings, and actually Islam teaches us to have a simple wedding and look at good characteristics, and it's a simple message, but yet everything is all materialized, and those marriages don't last. There's no barakah in them, there's no blessing, and it's very short-lived. So I think my message to the young people is, work with your parents, bring that communication. This lockdown is a best time in many ways for us to rekindle our relationships with our parents, our elders, and understand one another. And that way, I think we can move forward.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Ladies, Tooba and Fizza, any other last few words before we go?
Yeah, sure. I just would like to add that we generally, as a parent, as an individual, whether we are in a arranged marriage situation or we are in a love marriage situation, whether we are parents or whether we are caretakers or guardians in any way, one thing that we really need to take in context is the value clarifications. We really need to clarify our values, and we really need to eradicate the myths and the taboos related to these topics, so that we can, be welcoming to the new things that are more appropriate for one's life, when it comes to the spousal relationship or when it comes to a parent or a child relationship. So I believe that we really should look into the value clarifications practices more and more day by day, so that we can, slowly but gradually, eventually we can just, get a very clear picture of how we can deal with these things. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Anything from you, Fizza?
Yes, I would like to add here. As the ladies have already discussed, I would just add this point that we really need to become solution focused rather than being emotion focused. And people like you who are doing this great job of creating awareness, and such talk shows will really be beneficial in disseminating knowledge about marriages, premarital counseling, and how can they go through the process of selecting the best spouse So I think such societal work should be carried on at all levels to promote this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to thank all of my guests for coming on and contributing their valuable, contributions. And I do hope that our viewers will take on board. And on that note, I'd like to say thank you, ladies, for joining me. And I do hope to see you again soon, shortly, on another a good, valuable topic that, maybe we can raise similarly, good awareness. So again, thank you for joining me. Thank you.
Sufia.
Okay. So what is the right kind of marriage? We find that arranged marriages are still practiced, and more so amongst the South Asian diaspora. However, are evolving towards love marriages gradually, and as individuals are finding their own partners. For many, arranged marriages are still valuable, and it's a privilege that parents hold for their sons and daughters. Do people or do couple or do individuals fall in love in an arranged marriage? Yes, they do. That's what we have found out. Arranged marriages do have situations where people do fall in love and have some defining moments, while for others, love just happens. So it is important to understand and evaluate yourself, revisit areas that may need some improvement. As we walk on our journeys, there are many habits, and there may be habits and thoughts or traits that we don't necessarily realize are negative, and has an impact on the way we see or we are seen. And it seems that simplicity of seeking for a partner in marriage, whether arranged or not, well, how can I put it? It can be simple or just be made difficult. So what I will say is you can't leave yourself. So why leave someone else? Be mindful and ensure you are somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with. And on that note, I hope you all have a very safe time, and do share this podcast. And if you have any other good topics you'd like to bring on, get in touch with me. In the meantime, stay safe.